In my hands I have what might be the most versatile Klon style pedal I've had my hands on. This is the Origin Effects Halcyon Gold Overdrive. This is handmade in the UK and it's an absolute beast. The build quality on this is phenomenal. Now this isn't just your straight up Klon clone, although it can do that. You can also get really great rhythm tones by using the adapt switch and the mod switch down over here, and I'll showcase that in this video. A massive thank you to Origin Effects for sending this out for the video. I really appreciate it. If you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. Here we go. Here's the pedal up close. Now we get four main controls. We get our level control, which is our output, our drive control, which controls the gain. We also get a tone control and a dry control. Now, what this will do is bring back in our dry signal into the pedal's mix. So if you need more note definition, if you're cranking the gain up, for example, you can get it just by bringing this forward. And this will also sort of sway it away from your typical Klon sound. But if you want that traditional sound, leave this to the left and leave both toggle switches both to the left-hand side. This pedal also features adaptive circuitry, so with the toggle switch on the O position, that's the Klon setting. So if you want the same sort of feel and response as a Klon when you turn down, leave it on that particular setting and it will behave exactly the same. Moving it to the middle, we get less of that prominent mid hump, and we also get a cleaner tone as we start turning down. It's really impressive. It also adjusts how the pedal feels to play, especially on the low end. With the toggle switch on 1, we get a little bit more of that mid hump back and less adaptive circuitry. We get an all metal enclosure, top mounted jacks, and this pedal runs on 9V DC. There's way more to this than just your typical Klon circuit. If we flip the Klon switch over to mod, we're going to get more compression. It also feels like it gives us a little more sustain and a less prominent mid hump, which makes it more usable, especially if you're playing rhythm guitar. All right, let's get into it. We're gonna start with the typical Klon tone, and I've got both toggle switches to the left and the dry switch all the way to the left, which is giving us the sound of the pedal. So this is most reminiscent of the actual Klon Centaur, and I'm plugged into the Hageman PP12. Now this particular setting works best going into an amp that's already dirty or one that's on the edge of breakup. But this is my starting tone on bridge pickup. All right, pedal on, have a listen to this. Yeah, I mean, I love that sound. It's great, especially if you're a live player. It really helps you cut the mix. Have a listen to this with it off. While it gives you more drive and more volume, it also retains the character of the guitar nicely. And if you're wondering, if you turn down, it cleans up beautifully. So you really get a lot out of it. If you just want to ride the volume control for a lead guitar part at a blues jam or a gig, whatever the case may be, you can do that. If it just did that, it would be awesome, but there's plenty of other tones built in. Over to my Telecaster, I've just added a little bit more gain here. We're going to take a look at this dry control, which blends how much of the traditional Klon Centaur tone we're going to get mixed with the dry signal of the guitar. This is pretty cool. Have a listen to this. So you can hear a very different attack on the note as you turn it to the right. It actually feels a little bit more open sounding and a little less compressed, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can make that work in any position with the toggle switches, so it's pretty wild. Up next, we're taking a look at the mod switch, and what this does is it sort of broadens the mid hump, and it also gives you more compression, which you might like more than the typical Klon sound if you're coming from, say, a tube screamer, for example. So this is a really great function, and it sounds great and feels great in both positions. Have a listen. The low end kind of feels a little bit more like it's rounding out in this position as well, but overall it feels great. You can use which one works best for you. Let's take a look at the adapt switch. So the cool thing about this is we can get different types of dynamics and bass response just by flicking a toggle switch. So I've cleaned up the amplifier now as well, so it's not as dirty. Let's have a listen on both pickups. So much cleaner. Let's have a listen to this. This is the standard position on the left. Yeah, all right. Into the center position. Now, like I said before, we can clean up just by turning the volume control down. And just as a point of reference, we'll go back to the other setting. You can hear the difference in the low end response. I mean, that just feels really good to play. Let's take a listen to the difference between the adaptive switch to the right and to the center. So you just heard the center before, except now I've cranked up the gain. To showcase this, I'm going to start with my volume control down. Here we go. Back to the center. Yeah, so it's less clean on the position to the right than it is in the center, but it still sounds and feels great. If you're playing with your volume control up, there's probably not as much in it. It's probably still more bass response there in the center position, but it's very close. I think it comes down to how it cleans up as you roll your volume control down. And lastly, I just want to go over to some rhythm guitar stuff. One, with the typical Klon tone, so I've dialed that in. And then the second pass you hear of the same chord progression will be set up with the pedal in a completely different setting. Here we go. That's so much more usable for rhythm guitar stuff than just the straight up Klon tone. But if you want that lead boost, you've got it. And you can also get really musical rhythm tones out of this pedal. Let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on the Origin Effects Halcyon Gold Overdrive. So in terms of build quality, this thing is unbelievable. It's heavy. I gotta tell you, it actually feels way heavier than almost any other effect I've tested since I reviewed their Kali 76, which was a beast. So the build quality on these are fantastic. They're handmade in the UK, so they will cost a little bit more. If you're in the market for a boutique Klon style pedal, this would be a no-brainer. But it's so much more than that, and I think the thing that impressed me the most was having the adapt switch set to the second position and the voicing switch set to mod. This allowed me to get a much better rhythm tone than I'd be capable of just with that standard Klon sound. Additionally, the dry pot also allows you to get in more note definition, so if you want a little bit more of your dry signal coming through at the end, sort of reminiscent of the Sparkle Drive from Voodoo Lab. They had a pedal that had that similar control and just brings back your note and attack. It's very cool. So it gives you far more options than the original Klon. The only real trade-off to this pedal will be the price, and I'll link it down in the description box below. I know that'll be a deal breaker for some people, but for those who want a high-end effects pedal that will end up lasting forever, this will be an absolute no-brainer. Origin Effects are making great stuff. Go check them out. I'll link it down below. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.